Okay, welcome to the Zooming In on Every Blade of Grass podcast. What I want to talk about is the. I'm happy with the story that this gotten some traction, it's gotten some support. It's starting to be discussed on a wider basis, but unfortunately, the it's being discussed along the lines that were laid out by the investigators, which is that she fell from the car. It's my belief that she did not fall from the car. And I think that whenever that line is repeated on either side of the aisle, it just reinforces the idea that this was some kind of accident, that her her mental health and her being diagnosed as schizophrenic led to her just doing something crazy and jumping out the car. It's blaming the victim. I don't believe it. I don't believe it based on evidence, not based on anything else. Looking at the video, I don't believe it. I don't believe that she was conscious when they showed her being put in the car. I don't believe that prior to the incident, her being getting the blunt force trauma, that she was ever in the car. I believe that that entire part of the video from 2 minutes and 17 seconds forward is staged. And I want to show you why I think that. Okay? And so there's a couple points I need to make first. They lied in the GBI investigation about opening the door. I would think that the lie about opening the door would be enough to debunk the whole idea that she fell from the car. But evidently it's not, because the news and everyone is still saying that they're still sticking with the story, even though the GBI's release statement does not match the video. No officer ran around the car and opened the other door and forgot to close it. The door was opened by remote, and it shows that clearly in the video. Let's take a look at it. So we can start out right about here. Hard as this is, let me iterate that point. Let me make that point too. Right. This is not a black and white video. This is enhanced by the GBI so that we can see it. They put a night vision filter on it. They did some color grading so we could see it. What it really looks like is like that. It's that dark out there. And that's why it seems to go from color to black and white. It's just that they put a filter on so that we can see it. Like the gloves he has on, those are blue gloves, but they appear, white. So this is enhanced video so that we can have a chance to see what's happening in the dark. So, she's carrying her here, and they drop her here. The first time they drop her, right? Then they pick her up again. I think this is actually where it goes to color again. And so, what you want to pay attention to is that the guy holding her ankles is Lieutenant Primus. He's the older brother of the sheriff, Terry Primus. I think his name is Marlin Primus. And so he's the person holding her ankles, right? And the guy at the other end, I think his name is Leggett. He's a junior person. He seems to be the regular officer, the compassionate officer. I have no idea what happened, but she seems to not be afraid of him. Whereas she is afraid. She's scared to death of Lieutenant Primus, in my opinion. And so carrying her to the car, you see the order. Upper body is the other deputy, lower body is this guy. Get out of me! She's not violently kicking and screaming. She's not fighting, really. She's just protesting. Get out of me! Her legs are steady. She's not kicking them at all, right? Get out of me! I ain't broke no law. She ain't breaking any law. That's the thing. They ignore everything she says like she's not even a citizen. No law. So, drop her, right? And so, The report says that at this point,
Get on me.
try to open the door. The door is locked, and it says that one of the officers runs around to the other side and unlocks the door because the other door is open, and then forgets to forgets to close it, and he rushes back here, and they put her in the car together. But look at what happens.
Get on me.
It's unlocked, right? He didn't go anywhere. His camera is there with him, right? And so if I go back,
Me.
make him drop her again. I hate to see this.
Get on me. I ain't broke no law. I ain't broke no law.
It's terrible. He's gonna ask him, "Is it locked?"
Get on me.
See the flash of the light in the back,
Get on me.
like anybody else that opens their car by remote. It's unlocked. Now that part alone should throw out the entire notion that she fell from the car, because that is the crux. This is their whole foundation of their story. Is that when the deputy ran around to open the door, he forgot to close it, and then that's why she was able to fall out the car. But for some reason, that didn't stop any of the stories from going forward, even though all of the news stations saw it, people writing articles saw it, everyone saw it. They continue to go along with that story and also to rebut that story. But, she didn't fall from the car, in my opinion. Okay, but we're going to go forward and show you another contradiction. Car door is open. Now, again, recognize that Lieutenant Primus is at her feet, and Lieutenant Leggett is at her, has her torso, right?
I bet you I hate myself.
Now the news made a point to say that part. I bet you I hang myself when I, get there. Her protest.
As soon as I get in there. I bet you I hang myself as soon as I get in there. I don't care. It's more than one way to kill yourself. I know what you told me. It's more than
All right, now recognize that. She said, "It's more than one way to kill yourself. Ain't that what you told me?" And as soon as she says that, he drops her like a ton of bricks, and he walks away with purpose.
one way to kill yourself.
Right? They've carried her 40 yards already, and she only weighs 110 pounds. They could easily, and she's really not resisting. They could easily put her in the car. But when she says that statement, he gets upset. He goes to his car and he changes his gun for a taser, and he comes back. Now, I want you to pay attention to the body cam footage, because it's hard to not get pulled into the story, especially when you listen to the sound and you forget, like, what's the camera doing, right? You kind of fall into that whole mode of watching TV again. But up until this point, the body cam footage has been real. When he bends, it shows what he sees. Nothing is very clearly framed. It's really based on, it's a real body cam. Like even right now, he's looking at her, handling her, he's showing her, right?
Trying to get up and walk.
No.
And you see that she's not afraid of him. They say they've done this over and over again. She's not afraid of this officer. She doesn't seem to have any fear at all of this officer. He sounds like he has some kind of human compassion for her also. He's talking to her in a familiar way, and he's trying to get her to just cooperate. It's almost like they're both afraid of Officer Primus.
Y'all better knock me out.
Y'all better knock me out is a telling statement, because it implies to me that maybe they did that to her before.
And I got a sting in my heart.
Now that yell out and that jump back toward him, he's the security, right? She's not scared of him. That tells me that something just happened. But it's not shown on the body cam, right?
Come on, Bruce.
No, I'm my brother.
Oh, that's the saddest part to me, asking for a brother. Okay, so you see where she is. We see where her foot is. She's right there by the tire. We see a little black spot by her foot. That's actually the Bluetooth they're going to be looking for later. She's leaning up against the officer, right? She's not scared of him. Her feet is pointed the other way. She's in a defensive posture against him coming back. Because again, after he left, they didn't try to put her in the car. She just sat there. He didn't even try to pick her up. They're waiting for him to come back. And so now he's back. She's scared. Her feet are up.
I know how to get her.
He says, "I know how to get her up."
You can tase me.
That you can tase me means she's been tased before, in my opinion.
I don't care.
And never mind, he had no reason to tase her. They had gotten this far. The only reason he went to get his taser was because she said that statement that he said to her, and he didn't want it on camera.
I don't care.
Shocks herself.
I don't care.
Ain't nobody gonna tell you.
Now he says, ain't nobody gonna. That doesn't even make sense. Ain't nobody gonna tase you. Now, one thing you might not have noticed since then is that the body cam footage has shifted from being the officer at her torso's perspective, where he was looking down at her and taking care of her. It shifted to now featuring Lieutenant Primus. It's holding him in that frame like that. It hasn't done it at all up until now, but now it's shifted. This is around the 2 minute and 17 second mark. Oh no, that's actually 2 minutes 17 seconds when they got there. But this is at 2:32. It's showing him, just him. We go back to where it first started. Last time we saw her was at.
I got a sting in my heart.
Come on, Bruce.
No, where my brother?
So 2:16 the last time we see her. And so from here, from 2:18 forward, the camera pans up to Lieutenant Primus, and we only see this angle. We no longer see her. We may hear her, right? We may hear her. I don't know if she's saying that right now, or if she said that at some other time, right? But we hear it. They don't show her. I think that recording of that audio is from a different time period. That's why we don't show her anymore. And this is a performance. That's why he's fully framed in the center of the screen. And the officer, even though she's screaming, he doesn't tend to her. He doesn't bend down. He doesn't say anything to her anymore. This officer says nothing else, right?
Ain't nobody gonna tell you.
Ain't nobody gonna tell you. That don't make sense. All right, now, right, he's looking down, right? In one fell swoop, he's going to scoop her up and put her in the car, right? And the interesting part about this is, look at the camera angle, look at the vehicle, look at where the vehicle is in the frame, because this is a frame by frame analysis. Now we're going to step through it because it happens really quick. Now he just bends down, less than a second, maybe about a second, scoops her up, right? Look at the car. The car is in the same exact place in the frame, which means that this officer who had been handling her torso is not involved in picking her up. He doesn't change levels. We don't see him when they pick her up from the ground like we have been seeing. We don't see it. We just see him lunge down and come up. When he comes up, what we see first are handcuffs. Handcuffs, and we see hands, fingers, not moving, right? Coming up, not moving. We see her foot right there, not moving, right? Her whole body is not moving. She's stationary. That's her hair, and that's her head. Now, her torso had been facing the other officer the entire time, but he just squatted down, and now he has his arm underneath the back of her knee, and he has his other arm around her or maybe under her shoulder, and alone, this at least 68-year-old man, because his brother's 67, is putting her into the car without the assistance of the other deputy. The other deputy is now just a cameraman because he doesn't move. The car doesn't move in the frame. There's no way he's helping him at the same time. Right? And now he just shovels her. There's her hair. There's his arm. It's like her head is between his forearm and his body, and his fingers were probably wrapped underneath her underarm, and he's dumping her into the car. There's no resistance from her. The sound that you hear from her does not match what's happening. Her fingers don't move. Her feet are not moving. Her toes are not moving. You can see clearly that that's her foot. You can see clearly that these are the handcuffs. Those are her hands. And her fingers are not moving at all because she's not conscious. And this officer with the camera is holding the camera stationary, steady. And the way you know he's holding it steady is that the car is there. I think their intention was not even for us to see this much of her. But we see enough of her to know that woman, whatever he's lifting, look at her fingers and her fingers there. She is not conscious. She's been talking and alive the whole time, and now suddenly she's quiet and she's able to be picked up. Look at her hair. Look at her hair being pulled. She makes no movement. So look at the position of the car there, and look at the position of the car back when he started. It's the same place in the frame, which means the camera is stationary, which means this guy is just standing there, and the other guy is putting her in the car by himself. Now, that's another problem. They didn't put her in the car together, and then it's so quick, he does some movement that has no sound. Her sound disappears. We'll go back and listen to it, but the sound gets in the way of the analysis at some time. And we see that if we go frame by frame, before they close the door, we could see inside the vehicle, there's nothing there. I don't see anything. I think that she would be visible if she was in the car. I think that if she was conscious and in the car, she would still be protesting. And then they both close the door together. Left hand closes the door. From this distance, full frame, we can see it close. Now, anybody that's doing any kind of video editing can see where good transition points are in the video. This, for example, was a really good transition point while he's doing his so-called stuff on her in the car. And her sound just disappears completely. Let's go back and listen to it. So, no fingers moving, no toes moving. She is unconscious. Her hair, you see her hair movement underneath his hand. And if we go listen to it, we hear. Get back again. Make sure our sound is not muted. All right, our sound was muted. Go back. Suddenly reaches down. And then every single line of dialogue in this video, almost after this, is alibi. It all matches with alibi. It's oddly stated statements. It's odd movements. It's odd in a bunch of different ways. And so from here, you got the other side closed, right? Now, what kind of question is that? From what he just did in the car, putting her in the car, he could clearly see the other door. We saw also when they opened the door that the other door was closed. And what happens if the door is open and you push your alarm to open it, to unlock the door? You're gonna have a different sound. What happens when you get in the car to start your car to go and one of the doors is open? You're going to hear a sound also. There's so many points that we can look at and say, this is obviously not what happened. And the fact that none of these things are really being said bothers me. It really does.
You got the other side closed.
Got the other side closed. And suddenly, he's out of breath. Now, why is he out of breath? He's just been standing there. His body cam has been frozen. Now his body cam is free again.
Yeah.
So was what just happened with the stationary camera, was that him? Was that really him and his body cam? Or is this all just being spliced together? Because why is he suddenly out of breath? He just answered a question. They just had a little talk about the other side of the car, and nobody was out of breath. Now suddenly, when he turns around, immediately looking for his Bluetooth, he's out of breath, like he's been running.
My Bluetooth. That thing on my ear. It should be flesh.
I spent a lot of time on this scene, like going through it, because I was trying to figure out, what's going on. First thing you to know at a glance is that to people watching this that haven't analyzed it, they may think that everything that we can see on the screen is what they can see on the scene, but no, he can only see what his flashlight is showing him, because this is got a night vision filter on it, so we can see it now on the screen. But he can only see what his camera shows. What his flashlight is showing him. And that vehicle there is the K9 unit that Lieutenant Primus came in. That's why you hear that dog barking every now and then. Now, this is an interesting thing too. Now, see that? Over there in the dark, again, this is the dark. It's not as visible as it is to us. There is Lieutenant Primus standing. He doesn't have a light out. They're supposedly looking for this Bluetooth, but he's just standing there in the dark.
Let's see that shit. All right, anyway, he said, what now?
And when he comes over, then he turns on his light. And they're supposedly spending all this energy looking deep in the bushes for Bluetooth. But why would it be deep in the bushes? They weren't in the bushes. It stands to reason that this video was spliced together. Remember, this is only a couple minutes from when the video started, allegedly. If he dropped his Bluetooth, if you drop your Bluetooth, the first thing you would do is retrace your steps along the path that you just came, right? He would walk all the way back the trail that they carried her, back up to the doorway, back up to the, where they started, and look and see if they see it on the ground. But they're not doing that. They're looking in the bushes. Why were they ever in the bushes? Maybe they were in the bushes. But it's just not what we've been shown. Because, again, the body cam footage becomes real again after that, what I believe is a staged scene of putting her in the car. I think that's added later. But now the body cam is suddenly moving around again. We can suddenly hear him breathing. We can suddenly hear all this stuff we couldn't hear before when it was just in cameraman mode. Why would you be looking that deep in the bushes for a little black Bluetooth unless you've been deep in the bushes? See, I believe she was unconscious when they just showed that scene of putting her in the car. And I believe that showing that scene of putting her in the car was just for show. I don't actually believe she was ever in that car. Because where they supposedly found her is just right down the road. On this same little stretch. All of that to me, it feels staged. They took her there and laid her there. And then everything is full frame. The deputy is in the middle of the screen, delivering full sentences, showing, everything seems to be so coordinated after that certain point. There's no way you can watch this and get the feeling that this is really what happened. They're depending on you being a television watcher and then not being aware of what the camera is doing. But that shift in what the camera does tells a lot to anybody that's paying attention. It's like just looking in the bushes, which I believe is just to fill time, because they have to when they get the records are subpoenaed for what happened this night, the radio transmissions for what time they called in the dispatch, what time they called the ambulance, all that will be recorded. And they got to have some time to fill in for what really happened. Is not on this tape, but they've got to have something to fill in the time for that part. And I think that's what this looking for the Bluetooth is.
You done had back up that ditch.
I don't know. It fell out when we were pulling up around. That's so. Hey,
Fell off when you were doing what?
can't breathe in there down there.
Why is he off? Why is he out of air?
Everybody here somewhere.
The dog is in the vehicle. Why wouldn't they walk all the way back the path that they just came?
Everybody here somewhere.
We're going to skip forward and find his Bluetooth.
Thank you.
Right there.
Okay, will your dome light come on?
Now, he immediately mentions his dome light. When your dome light come on, do what?
Okay, will your dome light come on in back there?
Yeah.
Cut your line of sight, sit down.
Said, can your dome light come on in the back there? Said something about cut your line of sight. I don't know, but the idea of him talking about the dome light to me is all part of the alibi. Because we're all asking, where is the dome light? How come when they open the door, the light in the back didn't come on? And when he gets in the car,
All right. All right.
he doesn't look back. He doesn't talk to her. She doesn't make any sounds. Which leads me to, it supports my point that if she was ever in the car, she was unconscious already. Because there's no way. She's been talking and communicating this whole time, and now she has nothing to say. And he starts his car, and there's no ringer or bell that the door's open. Come on now.
27 o'clock. Oh, you're gonna be en route to the SO 150.
You know, and that's far enough. Because the point I wanted to make was about him picking her up and looking at that. And the question is, was she already unconscious when he put her in the car? And why is there no sound? Why did her sound disappear if she was conscious? And why are none of these questions being asked by anybody? Why are the names of the officers not being included? Why is the fact that the main officer involved in this is the brother of the sheriff not being discussed? I got questions. We're going to keep on asking. And this is just one other set. There's a whole other video where we go over the scene where they supposedly found her. And I got a bunch of questions about that too. Because so much of that also feels staged and produced. And we're going to take a look at it from the perspective of, what is the camera doing? When is the camera acting in a natural way, like a body cam? And when is the camera trying to tell you a story? Justice for Brianna Grier.